Good evening and welcome to another edition of Lovin Daily. I'm Diacono, joined today by Yannick and today we have quite a few stories to discuss. Mark Camilleri named six rebel Labour MPs. Black Lives Matter Malta calls out blackface in road safety campaign. Justin Caruana may have committed 3 crimes. Jason Sopardi warns all this and more on today's episode.
Welcome back. So starting with our first story, as Tim said, it's about Mark Camilleri, who has named 6 rebel MPs who he claims stood up to former Prime Minister Joseph Muscat. Camilleri was a guest on John Mallia's podcast this week, which I actually saw John Mallia travel to Mark Camilleri because he's actually moved abroad, where he repeated a claim first made in his book A Rent Seeker's Paradise that several MPs had demanded action from former Prime Minister Joseph Muscat following the Panama Papers revelations, and who he says were also key to Muscat's forced resignation in November 2019. Basically, he said that Foreign Minister Everest Bartola, Health Minister Chris Fern, Culture Minister Jose Herrera, PLMP Joe Mitzi, Sports Parliamentary Secretary Clifton Grima, and also Finance Minister Edward Cicluna had all resisted Joseph Muscat. Among other things, he said that many of them had discussed voting against Conrad Mitzi and Keith Schembri when a vote of confidence was called in Parliament following the Panama Papers revelations. And it basically discusses how they had also considered, for example, resigning, but how ultimately that wasn't an option. Joseph Muscat had promised them that he would remove both Keith Schembri and Conrad Mitzi after the 2017 election. However, this did not happen. He said it's a good thing they didn't resign because, as we said, ultimately they were essential in forcing Muscat out in 2019. He also said that that following the election of current Prime Minister Robert Abela, the rebels became demoralized. In fact, he said the prospect of Abela becoming Prime Minister was laughable to many. He even described the Prime Minister as not being very bright. As usual, a lot of bold claims from Camilleri. Tim, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I watched the whole podcast, or at least it's the first part of a 3-part series. So if you like spending time listening to social and political discussions that are argumentative, but not everyone speaking over each other, like the John Mallia podcast is, you're in for a treat because he said they spoke for 10 hours apparently. Wow. So it's a super long one that's split over 3 parts. Well, Mark Camilleri is Mark Camilleri, very brash, very vocal, not afraid to speak his mind, and in the Maltese political context, these are rarities, unfortunately, but that's the case. In fact, he mentioned himself, right? The rebels, so to speak, like they're always working from within, but they never exactly came out and really took a stance. As for example, someone like Marlene Farrugia did, who he said I commend her in hindsight. He said that it was very heroic, the way she just up and left. Now, the rebels, so to speak, have become deflated apparently because their favourite candidate wasn't elected, and they're kind of being conditioned into silence. Moving on, Black Lives Matter Malta, an anti-racist campaign part of the global Black Lives Matter movement, has flagged a road safety educational campaign video due to the possibility of blackface involved in it. So blackface, as you know, means literally painting your face black, which is completely unacceptable in this day and age and has led to quite a few international scandals, notably including Justin Trudeau in Canada, quite a few others. Anyway, this video was released by Mapper Foundation as part of a street smart safety campaign aimed specifically at families and specifically at children about how to be safe on the roads. And anyway, in a nutshell, there are there's a family who they call, they're cartoons, there's a family they call the safe family, the proper family who follows the rules as they should. And then they contrast them with a certain Mr. Careless. Now, Mr. Careless is dressed in black, his face is black, his hair is textured, and they're saying, like, look, this is a clear example of black is bad, where darker tones are often associated with a negative connotation or negative personality traits. I said in Malta, it's so much part of our culture that we even use the phrase "melayin iswed," like it's as something negative. So yeah, like I'm pleased to see people like this speaking out. Obviously, it's quite a controversial movement overseas for various reasons, but something like this is.
To be fair, like, I would say, to be fair though, like darkness is like the black and the darkness is in many cultures associated with kind of bad and negative things.
Why it shouldn't be?
No, fair enough. To be honest, I saw it after having kind of read what people were saying. It did actually, the penny dropped, and I thought, okay, fair enough. It didn't immediately hit me though, to be honest. Moving on to our next story, Education Minister Justine Caruana may have committed up to 3 crimes in handing a direct order contract to her boyfriend Daniel Bogdanovic. So as you know, the Standards Commissioner last week found Caruana guilty of a breach of ethics when she handed Bogdanovic a €15,000 3-month job to essentially visit local schools and make recommendations on how the country can produce more elite athletes. According to Nationalist MP and lawyer Jason Azzopardi, Caruana could be found guilty of embezzlement, which carries a punishment of up to 6 years in prison, as well as disqualifying her from holding a public office ever again. He claimed she could also be found guilty of making a false oath, again punishable by potentially a jail term of up to 1 year, as well as having made a false declaration to a public authority. Writing on Facebook, Azzopardi said that if Police Commissioner Angelo Gaffa were to wake up from his, quote, Castile-induced coma, both Caruana and the ministry's permanent secretary, Frank Fabri, would be seeing jail time. Prime Minister Robert Abela has so far refused to sack Caruana and has again opted to wait for proceedings to conclude within Parliament's Standards Committee. Meanwhile, however, the police are believed to have started an investigation of the alleged crimes, which I suppose is a good thing given that no one else seems to be willing to take any action.
Look, I see this as an extremely serious case, and unfortunately it's something that's quite normalized in Malta, like we have public funds, like it's a free for all, but no, it's not. It's €15,000 spread over 3 months. It's around €5,000 every month. So he got paid more than most teachers get paid, and he isn't even a teacher, and he didn't even do his job. Like he didn't even write this report. So it's completely outrageous that this was allowed to happen. That the minister signed it off. That the permanent secretary just agreed to give her friend a job. Like, this isn't what public funds are there for, especially in a field like education. For God's sake, this is the example you're setting our future generations. I can't believe she hasn't been made to resign yet, to be honest, because it's an extremely big deal. Moving on, Sports Parliamentary Secretary Clifton Grima has spoken to Lovin Malta about another controversy ongoing, this time involving Malta's national weightlifting team, who had travelled to Uzbekistan to compete in a championship, to compete in a qualification for a championship that would see them compete at the Commonwealth Games next year. They did very well. Two of them actually got bronze medals, which is very impressive. And they travelled there on the assumption, they were told that they will be exempted from quarantine upon their return. This isn't something new. The health authorities do give exemptions from quarantine from dark red list countries in specific cases. For example, the Malta football team had travelled to Russia and got an exemption when they returned. These were told they're going to get it, but a day before their arrival to Malta, they were told, no, sorry, it doesn't apply. So that means that they have to spend the next 2 weeks, including Christmas, locked inside in quarantine. Completely unfair, completely disrespectful, completely cruel as well, I think, at this stage. And anyway, Clifton Grima spoke to us. He said, look, I agree it's undoubtedly unfair on the athletes who are initially exempted from quarantine to compete on an international level, but that being said, I understand the health authorities who are obliged to take the necessary action to ensure our country's safety based on the host country's pandemic situation, which is unfortunately constantly evolving. Okay, me at this stage, I honestly think that the element of unknown, it's still there, but it's not as valid as it was 2 years ago. So there definitely needs to be way more transparency from the health authorities. You can't just say, you know, the exemption has been removed without even telling them why. Like, come on, people deserve respect.
Yeah, and to be honest, it blows my mind from two aspects, actually. One is how it is that a country, a fully functioning Western democracy, is unable to make exceptions for certain classes of, you know, athletes. I mean, every country has exceptions for either elite athletes, professional athletes, you know, people who go out to compete and represent the country. So why we cannot have an exemption for certain categories of people is mind-blowing. Secondly, how you would tell someone that they do have an exemption only to then take it away once they've already gone seems very unprofessional, if nothing else, to me. So hopefully this can be addressed both for this case and also others in the future, because from the looks of it, you know, this virus is still going to be around. Sports competitions are going to continue, at least for the time being, so we must have a solution, unless we're suggesting that we stop taking part in international competitions. Our final story, singer Aidan, the voice behind the Maltese summer anthem Naħseb Fik, will be looking to represent Malta at next year's Eurovision Song Contest. So after uploading a cryptic post on Instagram today, Aidan confirmed to Lovin Malta that he has submitted a song entirely in Maltese for next year's contest. Although he didn't reveal the song's name, he described it as an upbeat pop song with a very European sound. And one which he said he had written himself. He said that after Naħseb Fik's success, many people from various European countries had encouraged him to give the Eurovision a shot. He said he's obviously a huge fan of Eurovision and has been working on the song since May, including with some international producers, it seems. Aidan had competed in the 2018 Eurovision Song Contest, finishing 4th, however. Since then, you know, he's competed on X Factor, Muscat, and has released 7 singles, all of which have topped local radio charts. Could it be?
I'm looking for, I mean, I don't want to say getting our hopes up in terms of victories as
we'll leave that for next week.
we'll leave that for the eventual campaign next year. But yeah, no, looking forward to listening to Aidan's song. He hasn't released it yet, but he has confirmed that he will be taking part. One of the most popular singers in the country right now. So I'm sure many people will be looking forward to the song and even voting for him. So he's definitely going to be one of the favourites, no pressure. Great to see that the Eurovision is returning alongside X Factor, which is as it should have always been from the beginning. And that's it from us today. Make sure to follow lovinmalta.com to read more about all these stories and more, and have an evening full of lovin'.